Welcome to Commander Central, episode 261, and today we'll be taking a look at what Magic keywords we do like. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
What's up, boys? How's it going?
Oh, awesome. Peachy.
It's Thursday, not Friday.
We're recording one day earlier because of Max's schedule, so...
Yes, thank you for being accommodating, guys.
Anytime, bud.
Doesn't really change much for us. It's still our lunch break, so yeah, that's all good. Anybody have any exciting plans or anything going on in the next week? I don't really have very much going on.
Not in the next week. I know my wife and I are planning to go to North Carolina in July.
Oh, really? What are you going to North Carolina for?
My mother lives down there, or over there, or wherever, on the coast, wherever she lives, somewhere over there.
Driving or flying?
I'm not sure yet. I would like to drive just for the cool little thing, show the kid around the sights of the world as we're driving down there, but flying is just so much easier.
Yeah, that would be a pretty serious haul.
Yeah, but then again, you also got I understand, COVID's on the decline and everything, but that's still a worry, jamming into a plane and all the packed people when I could just drive instead. Right.
That's a good point. How about you, Max? Anything exciting going on for you?
Not really. Status quo, just kind of chilling, enjoying the nice weather, It is what it is. It's getting nice out. That's what I like.
It is. It is starting to. I got up, went for a bike ride this morning at about 7:30 and got to enjoy seeing the morning around me after a long, cold winter. That was kind of nice getting out. So it made me feel pretty good. And we got to play a couple games last week on cam, just not streamed or anything. We just played with Zach and Ryan from Commander Social because we just hadn't talked to those guys for a while. We thought it was time to just play a couple games of Commander on a Saturday night and just BS for a while. So thanks a lot to Zach and Ryan for that. That was nice to be able to do and just see some old friends. So hopefully we'll get events this year or at least next year and we can see people in person. But yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Good to catch up with them. I had some technical difficulties there at the end where my headphones died. I switched to a new pair and the computer picked them up for a speaker but not the microphone. So I sat here and participated in the conversation for a good 20 minutes.
It couldn't figure out why
and
no one was
literally just sat here like, they just don't want to hear me. Okay, that's fine. Nobody wants to acknowledge me.
Because at one point we're like, oh, I guess Max went to bed. Okay,
I mean, it was like 1 a.m, so that was a good assumption.
But I did not know you were there that long trying to talk to us. I thought you just took off.
Nope.
All right, well, there we go. Yes, so we were not ignoring you, Max. We just thought you left.
Max, I just think you need new electronics in general.
Yeah, one AirPod died. I put the new ones in, and I forgot to spell table is wonky when you change inputs, and it was 12:45 in the morning. I didn't want to mess around with it.
I picked up one of the new AirTags, which are Max, the Apple little tracker thing that's about the size of a quarter that you can put in your, and I got it for my backpack basically, and you can take it, you key it to your phone, and then you can just put it, people can use them on their car keys. I got it for my Magic backpack, but it does a really good job tracing down the location of where your pack is. I messed around with it in my yard a little bit just to see how easy it was to find the location of it, and they work really slick.
That's awesome.
So so is it narrow enough in its depiction? So if we're in Vegas, that convention hall, we're just in the North Hall. If someone chugged your backpack to the South Hall, would it just show that you're still in the building somewhere?
It was narrow enough to within several feet.
Awesome. That's super cool.
And the way, because I've looked at these things in the past just for this purpose, and the problem with some of the devices is, number one, if they're using a cell phone signal or something, that gets kind of expensive to have, and the battery life on them is pretty limited on those as well, so it's just never been worthwhile for me. These ones are using Bluetooth, and it's a year battery life on it before you have to change the battery out. Wow. You can just put it in your backpack and then not worry about it for a year or so. And it uses iPhones and it uses the Bluetooth on iPhones to do location tracking. So the more people are around, almost the better it is. So in a convention hall where you have everybody's iPhone on there, it will do an even better job triangulating the location of it.
That's super cool.
Really, really slick.
I need to get one of those implanted in me.
Right. Where'd Max go? I'll just follow his tracker. So yeah, I picked that up, even though we're probably not going to have any events in the fairly near future, but, at some point I'm hoping to get back. And I've always wanted something to keep on my backpack. So even though we are not Apple sponsored, I am shutting up the AirTag. It's pretty select.
Yeah, I think next time I see you, Dana, if I have my bag with me, I'd like to try that because I have all those RFID chip blockers in my bag because I have that special bag.
Oh,
I'm curious if that blocks out that signal or not.
Yeah, I'll bring it to the shop when I come next week. We can mess around with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, if you out there in listener land want to reach out to us, talk about some games you played or cool technology you picked up, how'd you go about doing that, Chris?
Well, you can reach us on a multitude of social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can search us up on Facebook, CMDR Central. You can find us online at cmdrcentral.com. You can also find us on YouTube by searching CMDR Central.
You can also head over to patreon.com/CMDR Central. Check out our reward tiers such as the Decks You Play series, guesting on the show, or just joining our community, chatting with us, and playing virtual EDH with everybody. This week we want to say hello and thank you to a few new patron supporters, Amber Mum, Thomas, and Logan. So thank you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much and welcome to the fam. And thanks to everyone who supports the show, whether it's through Patreon or just by listening or upvoting or liking it or telling friends about it. We appreciate it, and it all makes a pretty big difference. So thanks to everyone out there. You're what keeps the lights on and keeps pants on max.
I have a lot of meetings today, so yes, I'm wearing pants or gym shorts.
Just in case, better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
I think we had a contest that just wrapped up too, didn't we, Max?
We did. We are giving away my Draina Kalistra Bloodchief budget commander deck that I played earlier this winter on the Scrap Trawlers stream. So it is fully sleeved up. It'll be in a deck box and it'll be mailed to the following winner, which is Paul Haberman. So congrats, Paul. I will reach out to you privately and grab an address, and we'll get this thing in the mail in the next couple weeks.
Very cool. And we'll have something going next week. We'll announce the contest for this month as well. So we'll fire this back up. We're going to try to do contests again. We kind of got out of the habit over the winter, so we're going to start doing that monthly, I think, again, moving forward. We have a big announcement, I guess. So we're recording on Thursday. There's something happening this afternoon. They've been teasing it on some kind of a Magic daily MTG, I guess it's going to be on. But we have no idea what that is. And I've been kind of thinking about it for the last 24 hours, just trying to come up with some guesses. And I really don't know. We know all the product for this year, I think, don't we?
I thought we were getting Modern Horizons stuff today.
I would guess we definitely are, but supposedly there's some other announcement that's bundled in with the same thing.
Maybe it's another secret layer of some sort that they're gonna, splash out now.
I guess.
Or who knows? I mean, there's so many of those that keep popping up that I can't even keep track of them anymore.
I mean, that's a great idea, Chris. Maybe they're gonna announce the next, universe unfolded, property we're pairing with.
Yeah, that could be. I was wondering, too, if they don't try to throw some kind of a multiplayer draft thing out in November-ish where that Commander Legends product was last year. So, if we would get a second Battle Bond or a third Conspiracy or something out maybe late in the year, they might be announcing that, I was wondering. Or it could just be an entirely separate thing, too. I did see League of Legends has a cartoon or something coming on Netflix this fall, and I'm wondering if maybe it's something similar with Magic where they're doing some kind of a property like that.
Well, Netflix was supposed to have a Magic show of some
sort. They were at one
point
in time.
And I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
It is still in development because the Russo brothers, I think, are a part of it.
Yeah, they were involved with somehow. So who knows? But by the time the show airs, we will have figured out what all that is and probably gotten a look at a couple of Modern Horizons 2 cards as well.
I bet we get an update on Magic Legends, that Diablo-esque PC game.
Yeah.
I bet we get a confirmed release date or something.
Sure, that could be. That would be cool.
Because that beta is, I think, now still private. It might be open beta.
I believe it is, yeah. So we'll find out, and we'll probably report back on that next week and let everyone know what our thoughts are and how those Modern Horizons 2 cards are looking. So I'm kind of looking forward to that as well. Should we talk some keywords here?
Sure.
Let's do it. Do we have any big rants we got to get prepared for?
I have no mutate level rants this week, but I did get quite a few comments on that from last week.
Yeah, I heard from people in the shop too that listen to the podcast, and they were like, did he purposely say that, or was that an accident? And I was like, well, let me tell you.
Yes, that was a planned F-bomb that we knew we were going to bleep out. But
yep.
The rant was partially planned and partially just me rambling. So
I thought about trolling you today too, and was like, okay, Chris, what's your first one? I was going to be like, so Mutate's my favorite one.
So the first one I am going to say that I like quite a bit, and it's a keyword that's been around since the very beginning, even if it wasn't keyworded. And I've come to appreciate this keyword playing Commander particularly, and that's vigilance. Vigilance is super useful in Magic in general. In where you really, I think, learn to appreciate vigilance is in limited environments, particularly like if you go to a pre-release, something like that. If you get a decent creature that has vigilance, that can swing and hit you and then is still there with shields up, that's when you realize like, oh, I just need to, if I don't deal with this, I can't win a game.
Yep.
It is so powerful. And in Commander, it's almost 3 times as powerful to a degree because you're not just keeping that one opponent at bay, you're keeping multiple people from swinging through. And I've ran into this with Max's Dromoka deck where he either, is it Brave the Sands, Max?
Yes.
I forget what.
Yep, that is the correct one.
That gives your stuff vigilance and lets it block multiple creatures. But when you have like 3 or 4 big flying beaters in place that number one have evasion and they can swing through and hit, and then just stay there untapped so they can block me and the next person and the next person, that is really difficult to deal with. So the utility of vigilance is something I've really come to appreciate having played Commander. And it's a cool keyword. Like it does it all. It's useful. It's useful in almost every situation. It kind of makes sense, like logistically. It's a defensive creature. It's all that's going to be able to attack and also still protect you. So like Vorthos wise, I kind of like the way that works as well. I just like everything about it. It's become one of my favorite keywords. It's so simple and kind of elegant, and I am just a fan. So what do you guys think of Vigilance?
Oh, I love Vigilance. I've actually, since I built that Angels deck and I've been playing it,
Oh, sure.
So many Angels have Vigilance. Well, there's even an Angel in there, that says that, creatures don't untap. Well, guess what? All mine have Vigilance, so guess what? It doesn't bother me at all.
You bet.
Yeah.
How about you, Max?
I love it. I think I play Brave the Sands in a lot of my white decks. I know it's in Dromoka, it's in Tuvasa, it's in Regnan Krav. It's just, like you said, it's a way to not worry about attacking because you're going to leave blockers up, and it just gets so much better in multiplayer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Max, what's your number one here?
My number one is the best keyword in Magic, and that's green. Oh, wait, that's a color. Never mind.
Oh, you took it. Really? I was going to say that about red on my first one.
No, but for real, my first one's flying. I mean, this keyword has been around since day one. It gets the damage in, and I like to win by combat damage. So if I can fly over all your little tokens, I'm going to get in there for chip damage, whether it's 1, 2, 5, 10. I mean, heck, I built a deck around it. Chris has a deck around it. Dana has a deck around it.
Yeah.
It's a deck that doesn't seem too powerful, so you can kind of play it at any power level, and it's just fun. It's fun playing battle cruiser Magic, in my opinion. So that's why flying is my first keyword that I love.
Yeah, flying is definitely one of those things that I've learned from, we'll call them old school drafters, like your classic drafters back in the day. They teach the newer players, when you're drafting, you're looking for evasion, bombs, and then cards that play with it. And, evasion, what's the number one thing on evasion that you see in every set? And that's flying. So, I mean, flying's definitely like the number one thing that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a good point about doing draft kind of stuff with those cards. Is I've lost so many limited style games because someone drops like a 3/4 flyer or something.
Yeah, like not powerful by any means.
Yeah. But like you're like, okay, well, I have 2 more removal spells in this deck. If I don't draw them in the next 4 turns, I'm just going to lose.
Yep.
So, it's so simple. It's just such a simple keyword. And there's like weird, fun interactions. It tends to be older cards, but like there's enough of those older red earthquake style spells that if you're playing in a Boros deck, if all your stuff is up in the air, you have those earthquake spells to clean things that don't have flying off, deal damage to people, and then you still have all your beaters left. I think there's things like Crackdown. I think there's a white enchantment where stuff doesn't untap if it doesn't have flying. There's just, or excuse me, I think it's Mudslide. Sorry, in red that does that. I was confusing 2 cards, but the point remains, like there's weird things you can do too. You can find interesting interactions with flying if you dig deep enough. So yeah, it's a cool card. And
Gravitational Shift, is that the one? Yeah, I mean, flying's just amazing.
Yep. All right, Chris, what's your first one here?
So my first one, red's the greatest color of magic. God, Max, I'm so mad at you. You stole that from me. But so my first one, I lumped this into 4 categories. Like it's 4 of them in one. And that is flashback, jumpstart, buyback, and embalm. All of these, I decided to lump them together due to the simple fact that we're playing a singleton format. So the ability to use a card multiple times becomes priceless. And why this stuck out to me right away is because one of my favorite cards is Faithless Looting, which, 1 red, draw 2, discard 2, flashback for 3 mana. So, you get card draw, all that stuff. Well, each card that usually has this stapled on is powerful. There are a lot of them that are trash. I mean, everyone's got to admit, some of them are just trash. You go into the buyback aspect, you start thinking of like Forbid and Constant Miss. Those are the 2 that pop in my head, and those are annoying cards to play with. But you get to reuse them repeatedly. So that's why I chose this as probably my number 1 favorite. Just because, like I said, singleton format, need to play cards more than once.
Yeah, and you could probably lump Rebound in here, and there's a couple different tweaks on this too. Being able to cast the same spell twice when it's most convenient for you is super, super useful. I mean, it just is. One card I've been playing a lot is Ignite the Future, was in a commander set a couple of years back, and it's a red impulse draw, but when you use the flashback on it, you can cast the spells without paying their mana cost.
Yep.
I love that card. It's been one of my favorite red draw spells the last few years, and the ability to, on turn 4 or something, cast it and hit your land drop and get a couple cards, and then turn 8 or 9 later on, use it and be able to cast whatever you hit for free, get a land drop and cast a couple free things. Then it just feels so strong and so efficient. I really love it. And whenever I see somebody do that Faithless Looting and then immediately flash it back, that always feels so strong too. Like just right in a row. It's like I'm just gonna dig.
Yeah, 4 cards, man. Yeah. For 4 mana, it's pretty good.
Yep, just find the thing you're looking for sure. I'm trying to think if Max uses many of these. I'm trying to remember what I've seen you cast that has flashback. Not really, no.
I don't play red.
That's true.
I
don't play a ton of blue either, necessarily.
I don't play a ton of blue, and I think out of any of them, I would probably do more of the jumpstart stuff because it is about the same casting cost. Sure. Then, flashback tends to be either a little more or a little less with a downside. When I had my Mizzix deck, I ran a bunch of these just because it's free with Mizzix.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's not my play style currently to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to me here. And first one I'm going to throw out here should be no surprise. And I was tempted to do this one first, but Death Touch, since I have a Death Touch deck. Death Touch is one of my favorite mechanics, definitely. Also old school, way back in original Alpha, we had Thicket Basilisk and we had Cockatrice that both had the non-keyworded version of this. Death Touch, I guess, is a little bit different, but again, it's a fun, flavorful mechanic. It tends to be on, things that are poisonous, like scorpions or snakes or whatever. I like that aspect of it. It's logical. Poisonous creatures don't need to do a ton of damage to kill you. I think that's kind of cool. They found a way to make this mechanic that makes sense with, kind of what you see in nature. That's fun. And it lets you do things with it. Like, yes, you can, your creature with Death Touch is unappealing to block, or when you have it back as a blocker, it makes you not very attractive to attack into, which is almost even better in Commander. In a regular game, people don't have a choice. They either swing at you or they don't. And sometimes they're just like, I just want to deal with this Death Touch thing, so I'm just going to swing in, I'll lose my creature, but I'll kill it, and we can move on. In a Commander game, people don't necessarily have to make that choice. They can just choose to hit somebody else. So it's almost better in Commander because it kind of redirects attacks. And I like that it interacts with things. The way it works with Trample, the way Trample works, damage that would kill the creature carries over. Since you only need to deal 1 point of damage with Death Touch, all of that Trample damage carries over. It winds up being kind of a cool interaction there. Or any of the fight mechanics you have. You don't have to deal lethal damage. It's Death Touch. It will just kill a thing. You put any kind of lure effect on something with Death Touch and they have to block with all their creatures, and you just put 1 point of damage into each of them.
There's just remember a lot that.
Yeah, or Viridian Longbow, something that just deals direct damage. I use that on my Glissa deck quite a bit. Like, there's just a lot of things you can do with it. So it's fun and flavorful, and it just is all that I want from a mechanic in the game. What are your thoughts?
Death Touch sucks. No, it is an extremely powerful mechanic. Overall, I did get to teach a newer player recently about the Death Touch Trample aspect of it. They didn't understand how that worked, and I was like, you just have to deal the 1 point of lethal damage, and then you carry the rest over as Trample. And they're like, that is so awesome. I'm like, yeah, that's how that works. Let's just hope that they don't go hard into that, because I already have to deal with one of those.
I'm trying to think if I've seen, again, Max, I guess I'm sure you have some creatures, but you don't particularly like try. This isn't the kind of thing where, like, for the most part, you're not trying to run Death Touch stuff. People just happen to have a creature that's good that happens to maybe have Death Touch.
Yeah, I don't think I actually run any creatures with Death Touch on it. Oh, I guess Worm Coil Engine, I run that. But I haven't taken it to the extent you have with Glissa, where it's every card needs to have it. I wish it was in more colors. I think that's another reason why I'm not a big fan. Like, you're kind of stuck in green or Golgari.
Yeah.
I think a couple red creatures and some artifact creatures have it, but you're really stuck in that Golgari combo, and it's just not my color combination to play.
Sure.
Yeah, I do like that Wizards kind of pushed it a little bit with, I think it was Keldheim, is where Finn the Fangbearer came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of pushed it like, hey, Death Touch is still a thing. Y'all want to place with this one?
Well, we might touch on Finn here a little bit in my next keyword.
Ooh.
But we'll jump over to Max and see what Max's second favorite one is here. What's your number 2, Max?
My next one is partner with, and to an extent, the original partner mechanic.
Sure.
I'm starting with partners with because I think that was a big jump forward from the partner commanders we got back in 2016, where it was just kind of like you pick the 2 best ones and put all the best cards in those colors into your deck and you're good to go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Partners with out of Battle Bond, at least it gave you, if you want to play Regna and Krav, you're stuck playing Regna and Krav. You can't go get someone else with one or the other. But at the same time, I felt like all of those legendary creatures that had partner with are pretty good on their own if you really want to try that. Like, Regna's a cool mono-white commander, Krav's a really cool mono-black commander. I've seen the Boros combo be played individually. So the fact that they kind of tightened the belt and it's like, okay, partner was maybe a little too good. We don't have enough time to figure out how to fix that, so let's just do, what if you can just call your tag team partner in? Essentially, that's what this is. And it has some awesome upsides to it. If you have partner with commanders in your command zone and you cast 1, you do get to shuffle your library if you want. So if you, if you used top and looked at the top 3 cards and, there's no lands or anything you can use, you can shuffle those away and hopefully you have a better luck next time you go to draw a card or top. And same applies for if you just run them as monocolored commanders. So there's a lot of little fun tidbits with them that people tend to forget. I've seen people cast Appear and be like, I don't need to draw, I don't need to shuffle, and they just go on with their turn, which is perfectly fine. And it's a May, but it is really cool to do that.
Talking about the original partners, because I was not a huge fan of that mechanic, but I guess it wasn't a mechanic I wasn't a fan of. I just didn't love the cards for the reasons you said, Max. People tended to just like grab 2 good ones and stuff it full of good cards, and I never found those decks very interesting myself. But they seem to have almost completely fixed that with Commander Legends by making them all monocolored for 1 and just being a little more cautious with them. But we got a ton of really cool monocolored commanders in Commander Legends, and it seems like almost all of the deck pairings I've seen that people have made since then wind up being interesting decks. They're like slapping, this mono black one with this blue one and trying to do treasure shenanigans or something. Like, they're like, people have really done a nice job brewing, and they were much more careful with how they built them this time to kind of encourage fun deck building. And Gavin, when we talked to him on the EDH Recast about that, he said they were super cautious. They spent a ton of time playtesting the partners to make sure that they weren't broken, but they were also fun and let you want to build a deck versus build a bunch of just good stuff cards. So you can totally feel it in that set. They put the time in, and it definitely is something you notice.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree. I mean, the partner mechanic I like the mechanic in general, just due to the simple fact that it opens up many more avenues for color combinations. Like, if I want to play, let's say I want to play 5-color dragons or something, I don't have to play a 5-color dragon in general. I could play partners or something to get up there or whatever, and then use their mechanics to actually, enhance the deck to do whether it is card draw or land shenanigans or something, just to make the deck overall better.
Alternatively, I've seen people that have actually built monocolor partner commanders. Like, they've just taken 2 mono blue ones that have, partner, and just built a mono blue deck because they made sense in whatever deck they were building. So, if you want to go that route too, there's just so many cool combinations you can do. Whatever you want to do, it gives you the option, and there's the amount they added have really opened things up. So yeah, I am totally on board with this. It turned me around in partner, and I always like partner with. So I'm at this point looking forward to seeing more of them as long as they keep doing it the way they've been doing it. Chris, what's your number 2 here?
My number 2 on my list is a new one called Ward.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you that don't know, it's a ward says something, if you target this thing, counter that spell unless such and such clause is met, is what it reads. So what stuck out to me mainly, aside from this being a new one, is that it cleans up messy game/messy gameplay. Because it's very straightforward. There's no more of this, I fatal push your creature and I look at you and I'm like, you can't because it has hexproof for Shroud. So you get a take back. No, now if you do something like that, ward triggers and it's like, you have to do this, otherwise the spell is countered. So it cleans up that whole take backs, redos, which I'm not a huge fan of, never have been, to the point where now it's just, it is what it is. You messed up and I hope you learn from it type of deal.
Well, it also removes some of the inevitability too. Yes, your creature can't be targeted or can't be, hit unless you pay the extra 2 or whatever the ward is. But with hexproof or shroud, that's just always there. You're like, well, I can just, unless I draw some way to remove hexproof, and there's like 3 cards that do that, it's just always going to be something you can't target. Versus this, you're like, okay, well, I can't deal with it now, but if I, wait 2 turns, I get a little more mana, then I can solve that problem. It's protection and it protects your creatures, but it also makes the person, it gives someone else an option if they need to deal with it. They can find a way around it, but they have to want it bad enough.
Yeah,
which is also makes for good gameplay.
Yeah, it's also good for the player who has ward because you're forcing them out of more resources. In order to do it.
So if they want to deal with it, they have to take the penalty of overpaying.
Yeah, it's a win-win for you either way now.
And I think in the past, too, they've had to be cautious. They've gotten burned a few times with hexproof, putting on creatures that were too good.
Ural the Miststalker?
Yeah, right. That's a good example. Or Narset. First,
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about her. She's like, that's a black cloud in my mind I never want to think about. Although, I'm going to warn both of you, there's a lot of new players who are playing Narset right now, and it's starting to get a little frustrating. Just so y'all are aware of this.
All right, I'll keep an eye out for that. Or even Sigarda. I mean, that's really tough to get through as well.
Yes.
Whereas something like Ward, they probably, and as a result of that, they've been kind of hesitant to put hexproof on too many legendary creatures or too many good creatures because it's a lot to deal with.
Yes.
You can put Ward on it now and still have some protection built in, but there's a way around it too. It gives them a little more play, I think, in terms of designing those creatures. So yeah, I like it.
I'm interested to see how long ward exists, because we've seen this in the past where we get a new keyword or a new ability that seems really cool for a constructed standard format, but then we really don't see it either because it's tied too specifically to that world, or it just maybe didn't hit the right, survey agreements with player base or whatever, So
my next one's going to be all about that too.
I'm interested to see if we see ward again and how soon we see it.
Well, and we've seen that in the past where we went from fear to intimidate to what's Menace. The other to menace, and they seem to have something on being happy with menace as the third. They've eventually evolved it, and they seem happy with that. We've gone from hexproof or from shroud to hexproof to ward, but we've also along the way seen some variants on that, like hexproof from the certain color. Yeah, or they've tried that the creature has hexproof if it's not tapped or something. So they've tried different variants on that. I guess protection from instants or sorceries is kind of the same thing too, works that way. They've done that a few times. So yeah, I wonder if they're just going to go with ward all the way, or they're going to keep experimenting and ward is just going to wind up being like a hexproof from or protection from instants or something. That's a good point. I'll be curious to see where it goes. Okay, we will jump back to me for my number 3 here. And we hinted at it before, but it would be poison/poisonous. Poisonous is a keyword for the poison mechanic, I guess. Poison was originally, I think, way back in Legends is where it first popped up.
Wasn't it something Viper or something like that had poison on it?
Yeah, there was Marsh Viper, I think it was.
Okay.
And, you get 10, when a creature deals damage, you get a poison counter. When you get 10 poison counters, you lose the game. It wasn't very easy to do back in the day when the creature was a 1/1 or something. You had to hit somebody 10 times with it to give them 10 poison counters.
Yep.
But it was one of the first alt win conditions too. That was something that I thought was super cool. And then they would periodically revisit it and throw a poison creature out there now and then.
And then we go to New Phyrexia.
Then we go to New Phyrexia and got Infect, right. Which was, I think, everyone kind of agrees, probably too strong. When you just hey, well, what if Wither and Poison together?
Yay! It made sense for the realm that they were on at the time, because that was just utter destruction, and you touch something and you're just going to die. And I mean, so I understand it where it was, but going forward, it was not good.
Yeah, I think that was also before they were designing mechanics with the impact on older sets in mind. I don't think they were like thinking about, definitely not Commander, but I don't know if they're thinking about like Legacy or Vintage either, or Modern for sure. So yeah, it's a different world now for sure how they design things, but I'm doubting we will see Infect again. But Poison has came back. We got it with Finn the Fangbearer, where all your creatures with Death Touch deal 2 poison counters when they hit. So it wasn't quite the poisonous keyword, which was in Future Sight, I believe. We got it on
That was
an
the last, I think. And a sliver.
And a sliver, yep. And the way it was keyworded was a creature had like Poisonous 2 or Poisonous 3 or whatever it was. And when it dealt damage, you also got that many poison counters.
Yep.
When it dealt combat damage, excuse me. So I just like Poison. I hope we keep seeing it like we got the Finn card where we just once a year or whatever, just randomly get something that deals poison again like we used to. It's fun. It's weird. It's an alt-win condition. I like all of those things, and I think they can just keep sneaking it into sets, and I'm hoping we see more of it.
Yeah, Poisonous, Infect, I think they're cool mechanics, and I think in Commander they are fine. Like, it is hard to get 30 points of Infect damage across a pot of 4, you know? So I think it's fine, especially because it's still one of those mechanics where once you show your hand, everybody else kind of catches on, and you have like maybe a go around the table before you're out of the game. Like, everybody, you become the archenemy when you eliminate someone with poison or Infect, and whether that's through a Tainted Pact or just, you know, an overwhelming stampede against one player, you become the archenemy quickly if you are able to take out someone with poison counters. So you need to be able to have a backup plan or have the defenses ready to go.
I agree. Poisonous is a fun mechanic overall, but it needs to be upgraded to, you know, like Poisonous 3, Poisonous 5 or something, so you can actually get through with the poison counter damage, because, you know, I despise Proliferate because it takes forever to do everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the same token, you know, it as Max was saying, you know, it turns you into archenemy, so a lot of people don't want to play that archetype anyways.
Yeah. What's interesting about Poison, or I guess Infect as well, it's kind of like Storm in that Commander is probably the one place where it's relatively fair. They're relatively broken mechanics elsewhere. Dredge too, I guess. But just how Commander works, they're perfectly fine for the most part. People tend to get freaked out when they see Infect, but like, it's not that powerful compared to some other things people do at Commander.
No, not even close. I mean, like, the worst I've ever seen it is when you cast that 1 mana black instant, and it's like, oh, now I guess +1/+0 in Infect, but it's like a 10/10 coming at you, and you're like, oh no.
All right, Max, we'll jump over to you. What's your next one here?
My next one is Spell Mastery. This was from Magic Origins, and it essentially says whenever you cast a spell with this keyword, if there are 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, do something else. I put this on my list because this is a keyword that I always see played against me, and it does outstanding, and whenever I try to play cards with Spell Mastery, they fall on their face. So like, I've seen Dana cast Talent of the Telepath, which is target opponent reveals 7 cards, top 7 cards of their library, and you may cast an instant or sorcery from among them without paying the mana cost. But if you have Spell Mastery, you get 2 of those cards, and it's backbreaking whether they get a removal spell and a draw spell, or they get that overwhelming stampede. So now all of Dana's Drakes are getting +2/+2 or +4/+4 and killing the table. I've seen like Animus Awakening just go off. Someone put 10 into it, and then they untap all those lands because they put 5 onto the battlefield. It's a really cool mechanic that, similarly how I was kind of talking about Ward, I want to see come back, and I hope it comes back in the Dungeons and Dragons set coming out this late summer, because I feel like, you know, in D&D you cast spells, so why not make it more of an instant and sorcery type set to go along with the party mechanic, which I'm guessing is going to come back. I think that'd be a great spot for it, and I just want more of it. Like, there's only 17 cards with Spell Mastery. I want more of it.
I'm kind of surprised it didn't show up in Strixhaven, but I definitely agree. It's one of those mechanics that should come back. And that was one of the things about that Origin set that really set it apart too. We got those, you know, fantastic flip creature into Planeswalker cards, and it was the first good core set in a long time, it seemed like, and Spell Mastery was a really good mechanic. So it just had a bunch of things going for it, and that's kind of that was the start of them figuring out how to do core sets right. And yeah, one of the things that marked them doing it right was Spell Mastery. Is a super cool mechanic. I agree.
I agree too.
Talent of the Telepath is the one I've used the most, but like, it saw a good bit of play even in Standard at the time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other one I see a lot is the Dark Petition, the tutor
Oh, yeah.
that
Yep.
you get 3 mana back.
All right, Chris, let's see what your number 3 here is.
So we were discussing Ward on the last one that I discussed, and Max brought up, like, is this going to be one that we're going to see going forward, or is it going to just disappear into the, abyss like some other things have? And 2 of them that I'm going to lump together kind of disappeared. I mean, like, one disappeared, but then came back as a different version, and that's Sunburst and Converge. Both of them are relatable in the fact that they check the amount of different types of colored mana that you use. Now, I know I think it was it Dominaria or somewhere around in there, they brought one in where it was if you used 3 of the same colored of mana or X of the same amount of mana, then you got something out of it.
That was, so in Throne of Eldraine, Adamant
Throne of Eldraine
was that you pay if 3 green, so I think of Once in Future, the Adamant cost is 3 and a green. If 3 green were paid for that cost, put both cards into your hand versus one from your hand and one on the top of your library.
Yep, very similar concept then to what, I'm discussing, where it's like certain, because it requires the mana cost, of a color. Whereas, Sunburst and Converge, they want different colors of mana, which I like for the format that we play, in EDH, because it pushes people into more of the colored aspects, different colors, but now you're getting a bonus out of it. Now, we all know there's not really that many good ones of those cards right now, so I was hoping that we could get more out of them. Like the big one that I think about is like Bring to Light. So that's green and blue, but it costs 5 mana, so you could put 5, colors into it and search up something that's 5 or I think it's equal to 5 or less than 5, somewhere around in there. And then, do whatever with it, which is what I want to see going forward, is just to get more of this stuff. And I love what it is as a keyword as of right now.
I like Converge because, like you said, Chris, you have to use extra colors. So, like, there's a draw spell with Converge on it, isn't there?
Painful Truths.
Painful Truths, exactly. So, like, that's something you probably aren't going to run in your mono black deck, but you'll probably run in your Mardu deck because you can pump 3 colors into it.
Yep.
I think these are great cards for the people who want to play more than 2 colors.
Yes.
Because they aren't played very often, so they're fun. Like, they're fun to see. I don't think they're great. And I think it's going to be hard to reprint a mechanic like Converge because I think it was so tied to that Battle for Zendikar story about, the Eldrazi coming back.
And
so it'll be interesting
Sunburst
to see how they bring it back. Yes.
Yeah, Sunburst was mirrored, yeah.
Which we should be going back, right?
Yeah, at some point.
All things are hinting towards that.
I think the problem with Sunburst is probably that Devotion might have supplanted it, although it doesn't have to have, because Devotion was kind of a fixed Sunburst. What I like about Converge is it's a mechanic that kind of rewards you for playing well or for doing certain things, and it's also a mechanic they can control. Painful Truths, 3 mana to draw 3 cards, is a really good price. That's really efficient. But you have to be in a certain deck to do that. You have to have built your deck right. You have to have multiple colors of mana. You have to be careful and not use the mana up, in a way that still allows you to have 1 of each color to cast that draw spell. I think there's breaks built into it so it can't get too powerful, but it also lets them turn the screws on it up a little bit as well. Because of those breaks that are kind of baked into it, they can put it on a little more powerful card and not have to worry about messing something up because it has speed bumps already. So I do like Converge quite a bit.
You're only limited to the, certain cost of it.
Yeah.
So Painful Truth is only 3 mana, so you can only put 3 colors into it. Whereas, like Bring to Light, like I was saying, it's 5 mana, so you could put all 5 colors into it. Yep. Whereas if a card only costs 2 mana, you can only put 2 colors into it. Whereas Sunburst, like the one that I'm thinking of, Sunburst is like engineered explosives, where it's an X cost. So you could put as many colors as you possibly can into it.
Yeah. Very fun. All right. We'll go back to my last one here. And that's going to be Surveil that we got in the most recent Ravnica block.
So good.
I wouldn't have thought they would be like, let's find a way to make Scry probably better, but they did. And Surveil was really basically Scry and the cards you don't keep go into your graveyard instead of your library. And, I guess you could be like, well, then they're in my graveyard, I can't use them. But in Commander, especially in a 100-card format, those cards you put at the bottom of your library, you're just never seeing them again, probably.
Nope.
Maybe if you get a couple shuffles and you get lucky, but for the most part, they're just gone. When you put them in your graveyard, again, it's Commander, there's a really good chance you're going to see those cards again. If not, just genuinely you want them in the graveyard in some cases. It's just such a powerful mechanic whether it's a card like Notion Rain that winds up being super, super efficient, or, there's multiple creatures that just have surveil. It's one of those mechanics that I just see pop up all the time in games just on cards, and something good for the person who casts it always happens. So
I wish my temples had surveil instead of scry. It would be so much better.
No kidding. Yes, I mean, seriously, because I don't know if I run any temples anymore. I would absolutely run ones if they had surveil.
Yeah, I still run one temple for sure, and that's just in my Mogus deck. There's 2 colors, and I try to get as many of both the colors.
Sure.
Lands I can put in there, so it's still in there because it has value on it compared to putting in like a guild gate or something like that.
And Max talked about sometimes a mechanic is too tied to something. Surveil feels a little bit like maybe too much tied to Dimir to ever see it outside of Ravnica, but I'm hoping we do see it again because I'm a big fan of it. Max, what is your last one you have picked here?
My last one is the mechanic or keyword of totem armor.
Oh.
This was originated from Rise of Eldrazi, and it essentially says they're always on auras, and then if enchanted creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy this aura. I run a lot of these in my Tuvasa deck. I see them a lot in, Enchantress decks, because the nice thing is, if you have multiple totem armors, you get to pick which one you destroy. So, like, if you have a Bear Umbra and an Octopus Umbra on your creature, which one do you want to destroy? Do you want to destroy the one that makes 8/8s when you attack, or the one that untaps all your lands? That type of thing. So it's a great way to buff a creature, because most of these give power and toughness boosts or some sort of an ability, along with protecting. And I've said that on past shows where I like to protect my commanders or key pieces in my deck. So if I can make a creature go from a 2/2 to a 4/4, and you essentially have to exile it to get rid of it, that's a big upside for me.
All I think about is Modern, and I think about Boggles and Totem Armor, and I hate my life when I ever see that deck come back, because I'm just like, oh no.
It's the mechanic that lets you, you can't really reuse stuff like equipment, but it definitely makes it much more difficult to get, 1 for or 2 for 1 or something. And like Chris said, that's, one of the good things about, or most challenging things about dealing with Boggles for sure, is fighting through that totem armor when they get, that cheap Hyena Umbra or something on.
Right.
It's a pain to deal with.
Now, doing the notes for this, I had no idea this card existed, so I'm a terrible Magic player, I guess. Umbra Mystic, it's a creature from Rise of Eldrazi that gives all your auras totem armor. I need a copy of that, if anyone has one. I know where that's going.
I actually might, Max. I will look when we're done here. I'm guessing you want it for Tuvasa?
I do, because I think all the enchantments in that deck, 80% of them are auras.
That sucks. No.
I'm sure Dana ran it at one point in Sigarda.
I think it is still in the deck, because literally my white cards are right next to me. We're recording. I pulled out the drawer and just looked. It is not in there, so it's probably still in the deck. So I don't have one that's not in use, but I think it's relatively cheap still too.
It's like $5. Gives me a reason to visit the local gaming store.
There we go.
Woo!
Yeah. All right, Totem Armor, I like it. Chris, what's your last one?
So my last one, we're going to jump into the House of Dimir, like you did with Surveil. And this one is called Transmute. Now, for those of you that don't know, because you don't really see this too much, Transmute is on creatures, sorceries. I think it's on an instant of some sort too. But it reads that at sorcery speed, you can discard this card for the Transmute cost. Search your library for a card that's equal to the CMC of the discarded card. Now, I really, really like this one due to the simple fact that this isn't the stigma of tutors. Like Demonic Tutor, I can go for any card. Vampiric Tutor, I can go for any card. This is I am stuck looking for a card of equal CMC of the card that I discarded. And you're stuck in blue and black. Well, it gives blue tutors in general, is what it's going to do. And I think of Muddle the Mixture. A lot of people transmute that to go for Cyclonic Rift, and you're a dirty, dirty scumbag if you do that. But, it is what it is. Because sometimes you need to get the Rift to win the game. But
I feel attacked.
What I really like about this, like I said, it pulls away from the stigma of it. So then if you're playing, 12 of these tutors, I know you're not just tutoring up combo pieces to win. You're tutoring up weird shenanigans of other cards. Like I run it personally in my mill deck, a couple of them, because it's like, okay, well I have this CMC card that helps out the mill aspect of the game. Well, instead of let's playing, like demonic tutors and all, let's play these transmute ones. And, people are going to really be sitting there thinking like, what is he going for? This 3 CMC, and then you put it out and they're like, oh, well, that's cool. And now let's go play this game.
Yeah, the one I really like a lot is Telerio West, which is the land.
Yes.
And because you can go get something that costs 0 CMC, usually you go get a land, but like you can go get, Chris mentioned Engineered Explosives as a Sunburst card. You can go get Engineered Explosives. You can go get anything that costs 0, Hangerback Walker. The deck I currently have it in I'm running it in is a Dimir deck of mine that is running Cabal Coffers and it is running Urborg. So it basically winds up being like a wild card to let me go get whichever other half of that 2-card combo I don't currently have. Lets me go grab it. So I have one in that deck, and I also have one in my Sphinx deck where going to get Core Haven is pretty useful sometimes to buy me time. Or going to get Glacial Chasm is really useful to buy time. Sometimes I'll just pitch to go get Ancient Tomb just to have the extra power of being able to make 2 mana off one single land.
Yeah, but they're not broken tutors. That's the greatest thing I like about it. And
particularly if you're playing in something that doesn't have access to black, where you don't have a ton of tutors, or green, I guess, where you can go get lands. But like particularly if like in an Azorius combo or a Dimir combo, just being able to go get those lands is super, super useful. So it is. Yeah, I like Transmute a lot. All right. Those are the keywords that we were fans of. We had a couple, I will just mention a couple fallback ones in case that we didn't have enough talking we were doing, but apparently that wasn't a problem for us. It never is.
That's never a problem.
Yeah. I was going to mention, I do like Devotion a lot. It's always fun, and it's been my favorite part of both those Theros blocks. And I feel like it's tied to Theros. I'm probably only going to get it in Theros, but I would bet every time we go back to Theros, we'll see Devotion again.
For sure. I also think you could there are some mechanics you can easily swap into like a Commander precon. And I think Devotion, if we ever go back to like monocolor Commander precons, I would be shocked if there wasn't a Devotion card in each one of them, whether it's Nykthos or some of the new stuff they printed in Theros Beyond Death, but that'd be a great place to slot in Devotion again.
Yeah, you could very easily do a Commander precon like that, like a mono white or something, and like the Commander just costs 4 white pips or something, and it's filled with like cards that cost multiple white, and Devotion stuff matters there. Like you could make a really strong deck with that. So yeah, they totally could do that. Was there any other ones you guys wanted to just briefly shout out that you're fans of that we didn't go into?
Mutate.
Got me.
I had a couple fluctuating on my list as I was doing this morning. One that stuck on my list and I didn't get to talk about was Extort. I just think it's a cool mechanic. I know it's slightly controversial just based on the fact that those pips are in rules text and not actual like card text. So you can put it in a mono white or a mono black deck, or your 5-color deck, I guess, that isn't running black or white, or I guess your teamer deck. That might work better. I also had like Metalcraft on here for a while just because as I've been playing Sai a little more, that's kind of been a fun mechanic, but it's also, there aren't a lot of notable cards that I would use in mono blue Metalcraft.
That's one that could definitely come back in some form as well. I think Metalcraft is like, it's the fixed affinity, but like they could definitely use it again. So yeah, I'd like to see as well.
Yeah, the only one that I didn't really talk about, I didn't even write notes about it because I already had 4 of them written up. It's Wither. I really like that, Wither in general. Negative counters for damage and all that stuff. I mean, so you can get rid of stuff, and because damage usually wears off. I mean, it is a cool mechanic. It's just there's not enough of it running around, and it needs more because I want to make a Wither tribal deck.
No.
Yes. Yes. Because then I can just be like, it's Wither. It's not Infect. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Nice. And
I won't be proliferating because y'all know how I feel about that.
You'll just be running all the like enchantments that give creatures -1/-1 statically, and then you'll hit it with Wither and kill everything.
Yep, that's the plan.
Awesome.
All right, that is going to wrap up episode 261, Keywords We Like, the partner to the Keywords We Hate show we did last week. So you can find me on the Twitter birds at Dana Roach. You can find Max at CMDRCentral_Max, and you can find Chris at WiseSquishy1. Our show is edited by Rafael Garcia. You can find him at Ursa Bearwalker, and our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin McLeod, licensed via Creative Commons. We will be back next week with a new show. Until then, I am Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.